Kia ora everyone. Thought that I would just pop in at the end of quite a significant day in case you missed the post-cabinet press conference that was today at 3 o'clock. It came off the back of the Ministry of Health announcement that officially New Zealand currently has no active COVID cases in New Zealand anymore. That was as a consequence of our last remaining person with COVID having now officially recovered. So that announcement was made at 1 o'clock and was a fantastic way to start the day of announcements. I actually, as it happens, found out about that yesterday afternoon. I believe it was in the afternoon. And it was very exciting information to hear. And so I confessed that when I heard that information, I don't even know if I could describe it as a dance. Some semi-coordinated movement around the lounge, which Neve couldn't quite understand and just started dancing herself, which was lovely. So that was yesterday, and obviously that was announced at 1 o'clock today. At 3 o'clock, as many of you will have figured out, Mondays we have Cabinet, and so on Mondays we then have a press conference slightly later in the day just to share the outcome of Cabinet decisions. And of course the big issue today was considering whether or not New Zealand was ready to move to alert level 1. And you might have seen that I shared all of the rationale, including the time period that had lapsed since we'd been in level 2, the last case, including the last notified case, including the time they'd spent in self-isolation, now having ended 22 days ago, and the fact that we haven't had a case reported. Obviously, for some time we've been clear now, and all of that contributing to the decision we made today on the recommendation of the Director General of Health that we were ready to move to alert level 1. So what does that mean for everyone? Well, alert level 1 basically says borders still have restrictions. And so as we have had for the past period of time, we're still only allowing New Zealand residents and citizens to return. Everyone needs to go into quarantine, and very strict requirements for those individuals coming in just to manage any additional COVID cases. So that all continues and will continue for the foreseeable future. While we've been discussing the possibility of a trans-Tasman bubble, we've put no time frame around that because, of course, we need to be assured that when we open up to Australia, we can do that with confidence. There are still cases in Australia, so we do need to be careful. They're not quite in the position New Zealand is in. Some states are doing pretty well, but Victoria, still a handful of cases being reported there on a regular basis. New South Wales still trying to get clear as well, and so that might take a little bit more time yet. But in the meantime, we're doing work to get the border ready. So, other than border restrictions, what are we asking of all of you? Well, just keep washing your hands. That, of course, is a great public health measure, and I was just looking at our flu tracker this morning, and fantastic to see flu symptoms on the decline in New Zealand as well, relative to past years. So it looks like this overall may end up being a healthier winter, perhaps, if we all keep up those practices than we might have seen in the past. So hand washing, good hygiene, all still really important. Of course, contact tracing will still be key. Use of isolation will still be key. Those are things that we've established and which are going to play a really important role in the future. As I said today, we currently don't have any active cases in New Zealand, but it is very, very likely we will see COVID cases in New Zealand again, and that does not mean that we have failed. There are tens of thousands of cases still being reported daily around the world, and so it's a global reality. And so long as COVID continues to be a global reality, we do need to just be prepared here as well. And so those are the provisions that are in place. There are no limits on gatherings. There's no limits or restrictions on physical distancing. All of that comes off at level 1. So the border remains important, and we want you to keep being prepared. If on the off chance we do have cases and they may be in your proximity, we want you to be able to tell us where you've been and who you've been with. So do just keep up those records. We are continuing to work with businesses to make sure that they are displaying the COVID Tracer app QR code, particularly outside of hospitality venues. So just keep a note of where you're going and when you're going there and who you're with. It will just make that job so much easier. I see a couple of questions being asked about the border. Hopefully I've covered off the issue of the Trans-Tasman bubble for you already. I did have a question about whether or not the cost of quarantine was still being funded, and the answer is yes. That won't necessarily always be the case, but for now it is still funded, but we will be looking at that as we go. Keep in mind, if you are given a economic exemption, and we've had a few of those already, that those employers are then paying, so that's a difference, but the vast majority are being covered by the New Zealand government, and they are for New Zealanders returning home. I did have someone ask the question around people who are offshore, and so just to work through some of those issues. And I think what's really important to remember is that we have limited capacity to bring people through. So, you know, we have roughly the capacity to take about 3,500 people at any time if we're going to do it properly. And there are thousands of people who are wanting to come back into New Zealand who might have a connection here. So that is going to take some time to work through. What we're continuing to prioritise is New Zealanders coming home and their partners. So if their partner is travelling with them but is in a New Zealand citizen or resident, or their children, of course, they can come with them, for obvious reason. If, however, you're a New Zealander and your partner is offshore, you do need to demonstrate that they have that legal right to be here, normally resident here, and so on, and so that you do have to go through that process. So jump online to the Immigration New Zealand website. You can get all the detail of what's required there in order to be able to come in and enter into that quarantine. Then there's another group of people who are normally resident here but don't have that Kiwi partner or connection, and we know that's the group that we need to work on next. So just so you know, I've had the question about whether or not we're testing international arrivals. If they're symptomatic, we do. Everyone has to go into isolated quarantine for 14 days. Because you can get false negatives, we take the extra cautious option of just quarantining everyone, but we do test them if they are symptomatic. They do receive a test. So I'm just scanning as I go. Someone raised the question about not being able to find a COVID Tracer app for farmers. We might just get in touch with them and encourage them to make sure that the app QR code is available. We haven't made it a requirement at this stage, but we are working with businesses to make sure they keep displaying the QR code. If we mandate it, then of course you have to go and make sure that you're undertaking enforcement and so on. We are going to keep an eye on uptake, and if we don't believe that it's being done well, then we can come and revisit that issue as well. Again, just continuing to try and multitask as I speak to all of you. I do see a lot of questions still around people with visas, and those are issues that we're having to continue to work through. And I just again flag, because the border is so important, that we make sure it's really tight. That's why we have that limited ability to bring large numbers in at one time because of quarantine. So just to cover off again then, the week ahead. So on Tuesday, tomorrow, I'll be heading to Tauranga, and there I'm visiting with operators of in the horticultural industry. We've actually been able to successfully redeploy people from our tourism sector into horticulture. So just having a talk to employers there about what more we can do to support some of that, because there's high need in our horticultural sector for New Zealanders and jobs, and those who are here trying to find work, but at the same time just making sure that we're job matching really well. Wednesday, I'm in Kaikoura, and I'll be doing a tourism visit and announcement there. Thursday, Auckland for an infrastructure announcement, and Friday, I'll be participating in Vision Week. you haven't heard of Vision Week, it's a fantastic initiative to give New Zealanders a chance to have their say on what the rebuild of New Zealand looks like. It's running from the 8th to the 12th of June. You can find details about Vision Week online if you Google Vision Week NZ, or hashtag Vision Week on social media if you want to take part in what are a whole lot of online discussions and chats and so on. So I really encourage you to take a look at that. Okay, everyone, I think probably I've probably gone on enough at you for your Monday evening. Thank you for joining me with my wobbly camera work this evening. I've got you propped up on my desk. I'll pop back across the course of the week and update you on anything further that's going on this week. And in the meantime, though, I'll try and pick up some of your questions from this Facebook Live and see if I can answer them across the course of the days ahead. Till then, thank you everyone for joining me. Thanks for all your hard work over the past many weeks. Although, we know this isn't over, we've got a long road ahead. We've got a significant recovery. This was an important milestone today. So I hope that you have a chance to just reflect on the huge effort all New Zealanders have put in, including you. So have a good evening, everyone. Take care.